Hello and welcome to my channel. Try this as a series breaking down a certain game or play style of a game. Today we're going to be talking Commander and bringing down Abaddon the Despoiler. If you're looking for a deck built more around the Ruinous Powers precon, then I'd recommend checking out my Bellacore video. I felt the precon had a good foundation for a Demon Tribal list, so that's the direction I decided to go for upgrades. This video and deck is built more from the ground up. You might see some cards from the precon, but it's mostly independent from that list. I break up my videos into chapters covering a variety of the deck's aspects. Go ahead and navigate to whatever you're specifically looking for. You can find them in the description or in the timeline. If you enjoy this content, then please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps other viewers discover the content I produce and is a great way to show support. With that said, let's dive in. Abaddon is a 5/5 Astartes warrior with trample who costs 2 blue, black, and red. He has an ability that reads, during your turn, spells you cast from your hand with mana value X or less have Cascade, where X is the total amount of life your opponents have lost this turn. Abaddon is a powerhouse Cascade commander who embodies the gods of chaos to shovel raw value out of your deck. I think the first sliver proved that adding Cascade as a blanket ability is incredibly strong and provides huge potential for a deck. I felt the precon didn't really take huge advantage of this ability. You could carry games by just raw value, but if we built more around it, then Abaddon can really be quite disgusting. This list is very inspired by Rakdos, Lord of Riots. Rakdos has a very similar goal when it comes to his ability. There are quite a few effects in red and black to ping out our opponents and quickly add up the total life lost. While Rakdos is on the screen, he's also included in this list. It'll be easy to cast him, and not only will he cascade, but he'll make it easier to cast our creatures for even more cascades. Like Rakdos, Abaddon doesn't care about how the life was lost, only that it was lost and how much. Blood for the blood god and all that. The highest CMC card in the deck is 9, but really getting the 5 or 6 life lost covers most of the cards in the deck. This is really easy to accomplish with some typical Rakdos cards in Commander, and I'll discuss some of those in the high synergy cards section. Our goal is to just jam out as much value as possible as quick as possible using Abaddon to overrun our opponents. With how effective his ability is, this shouldn't really be a problem as long as we're able to get some damage through. After we outvalue our opponents, we should have enough creatures on field to eliminate them in combat. Between the combat step and the burn effects that enable Abaddon, it should be an aggressive game. As an alternate win condition, I'm running Torment of Hailfire in this deck. This list doesn't really take advantage of the card like you normally would. There is no infinite mana to make X a million, but in late game it can be a game finisher. As always, I'm starting off with my auto-includes in Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Thematic Compass. I've always found Thematic Compass to be a reliable card at any point in the game. It can help ensure land drops in early to mid game and then flip into a strictly better Maze of It to protect us from Voltron commanders and other problem creatures. I'm running Soul Talisman and Mox Tantalite as 2 suspend cards we can cascade into. Cards like these that you can only cast with suspend are actually great in Cascade style decks. They're considered 0 drops for the Cascade ability and are really useful for getting some value out of your 1 or 2 CMC cards. Ornithopter of Paradise and Solemn Simulacrum are 2 artifact creatures that will ramp us. Solemn is a classic card to help getting basics to field. Being 4 CMC, will also cascade into some of our other rocks or ping effects. I'm also running the available cycle of talismans for this color trio. If you've bought the precon already, then you'll have access to these cards. The talisman cycle is my favorite of the 2 CMC cycles, and it was awesome to see them included in the precon. I'm also running Commander Sphere and Sword of Hearth and Home. Both are great cards welcome in most lists. The sword gives us protection from the 2 colors outside our color identity. Green is a popular color in Commander and will help Abaddon get through with some damage. White is a great color to get protection from also since it has so much removal. To wrap it up is Prosper. When you cast cards using Cascade, you cast them from exile, which will trigger Prosper's second ability. With all the Cascade we're planning to do, Prosper will create a ton of treasure tokens for us. Since we can only cascade with cards we cast from our hand, we'll need to keep it full to keep our value train moving forward. Rhystic Study and Vanguard Suppressor are 2 cards that should provide us with reliable card draw. We can create multiple copies of the Vanguard if needed, making it a very flexible card. With it having flying, we'll likely find opponents open to attack, adding to our total damage for Abaddon and drawing us cards. I'm adding both Niv Mizzets to get some extra draw effects. They both have some ping effects also to play into our strategies and have draw abilities to feed our hand throughout the game. Stormfist Crusader, Biden of Thassa, and Ancestral Visions are some cards that provide us with additional draws. With our commander having trample, we should always have a creature to trigger the Biden's draw effect. I'm also running Jace's Archivist, Wheel of Fate, and Windfall as wheels we can use to reset our hand. Again, since we can only cascade from our hand with Abaddon, we'll need to occasionally reset it to keep the value train going. As I mentioned, we're going to be borrowing some cards from a typical Rakdos style deck. Lobber Crew, Nettle Drone, and Spear Spearer are all creatures that can ping each of our opponents. Tapping any of these creatures will enable Cascade for most of the cards in our deck. Like them is Goblin Fireslinger, Stormfist Crusader, and Thermo Alchemist. They are another way to rack up some life loss for Abaddon. The Crusader provides everyone with a card on top of its damage. I think it's still worth it to enable Abaddon even though we give our opponents some value as well. Psychosis Crawler, Inferno Titan, and Combustible Gearhulk is also here for some added burn. Our opponents could just give us cards from the Gearhulk, but either way it enables our strategy. Purphoros, Impact Tremors, and Terror of the Peaks all have some burn effects when our creatures enter the battlefield. With only 23 creatures in this list, including these cards and our commander, it's unlikely we will really utilize these cards to the potential they're known for. I think they're worth cutting for budget reasons if you don't think they'll be utilized that much. I mostly added them as some more burn for Abaddon. Since we can get so much value from a Cascade, it should give us a chance to dig through our deck for other creatures. Descent into Avernus, Heartless Hitsugo, and cards like Flamewrath will also burn our opponents. Each of them can enable Cascade for our whole deck by themselves. They're really effective burn cards, but Descent also enables our opponents quite a bit by giving them so many treasures. The free cycle from the Ikoria precons are amazing in general, but even more so in this list. Casting any of them for free from our hand on our turn will also still give them Cascade. It isn't really worth it for deflecting SWAT or Fierce Guardianship unless our opponents end up casting something on our turn. However, I think it's worth casting Deadly Uralic on our turn. Cascading for free on top of an effective removal card is a ton of value in our favor. The Cutting Room Floor is where I talk about some cards around or over $10 at the time of recording that I cut from my list for various reasons but are worth mentioning to run. Though these cards didn't find a home in my list, they might find a home in yours. Starting off is Lithoform Engine. It's a pretty versatile card that can either copy our Cascade trigger or something we cascade into. You'll have to decide though before you begin resolving the Cascade ability. It's always nice to have options in Magic, and this card provides plenty of them. Next is Wound Reflection. It doesn't really help Abaddon's ability, but it does play into the burn strategy. I think if you're having trouble closing games, then this might be a good card to include. It synergizes very well with the deck's burn effects as well as any your opponents might have. Next up is Dockside and the Reaver Cleaver as 2 more ways to ramp in the deck. In my test games, I never really had an issue with mana. With so many low CMC rocks, I often just cascaded into them and ramped that way. Both of these are low CMC also, and are amazing cards if you feel like you don't have enough ramp. First up is some cheap equipment in Tenza, Lizard Blades, and Fire Shrieker. They help enable larger spells for Cascade, as well as commander damage as an alternate win condition. Abaddon already has Trample, so using him as the primary way to play into his ability is also an option. I think Abaddon Voltron would be an interesting way to take the deck, so if you give that a shot, let me know how it went. Cathari Remnant, Direfleet Revenger, and Cryptborn Horror are some interesting creatures that add to the list. Including more creatures with Cascade already on them is a great way to squeeze out even more value. The Horror can turn into a huge creature if we time it right. Since it also doesn't care about how our opponents lost the life, we could give it a ton of counters with cards like Direfleet Ravager. If you're looking for more mana related cards, then the Mirror Cycle are some great cheap mana dorks to add to your list. They're low CMC also, making them great for Cascade focused decks. I didn't cover every card in this deck or every suggestion I have for Abaddon, so if you'd like to see the rest, check out the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. Comment below on cards you think synergize well with this commander, and if you have any suggestions for commanders to build in the future. Thank you so much for watching, good luck, and have fun.